Like everyone else, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you back. Hope that you've had an enjoyable and refreshing summer and ready to get back to work. This morning we're going to talk about one of the areas that is critical in our jobs, and that is the dropping off and picking up of students. It is an area that there is the greatest opportunity for accidents, and we certainly don't want to have any incident that endangers any of our children. When it comes to loading and unloading, we all get into a regular routine, and it can seem like it's something that comes naturally. But as we come back to school, and some of us have had a whole summer off, some just a few weeks, but we really need to refocus on what the steps are and make sure that we are doing the pickups and drop-offs in the proper order. When it comes to loading or unloading, the procedures are very similar. In both cases, they have 4 categories and 20 steps. For the loading procedure, your categories are approach, stop, loading, and door. For the unloading procedure, the categories are approach, stop, exit, and door. The only difference between the two is category 3, loading or exit. The other 3 categories are the same, whether loading or unloading. And as I said, both of them have 20 steps. When you notice the steps for loading or unloading, you can see that in both, 7 of the steps are visual scanning. And you can actually look at it as that it is continuous visual scanning. So as we look at the loading steps, the first category is approach, and in the approach category, you're doing a visual scan of the area. You then tap your brakes 4 to 5 times, continuing your visual scan. You put on your warning lights, your big yellows, and you're scanning to make sure traffic notices that you are slowing down. Category number 2 is stop. On a loading, you want to make sure you do not stop any closer than 10 feet from the students. You want to set your parking brake and put the vehicle in neutral. You then do a visual scan to make sure traffic can stop in both directions. If it can stop, you then put out your stop arm, loading lights, and crossing gate. In the loading category, you then do another visual scan. Make sure that it is safe for the students to cross, count the students, and signal them when it is safe. You then open the door, service door. You let them know to use the handrail. You recount the students as they come on and greet them, and you allow them to start get seated. Category number 4, you have a visual scan for any late arriving children. You close your service door. You continue to do a visual scan for those kids. As you see that the students are sitting down on the bus, you then deactivate your loading light, stop arm light, and safety arm. You do place the vehicle in the proper gear, release the parking brake, and do another visual scan to make sure it is safe to proceed. And here we will have an example. Coming up to a pickup, the students are on the opposite side of the road. When I get 200 feet away, I'm going to tap my brakes 4 or 5 times. I'm going to turn on my big yellows. I'm scanning the area for traffic. I'm scanning the area of the pickup. As I come up, I'm going to stop no closer than 10 feet from the students. When I come up to the stop, I'm going to set my parking brake and put it in neutral. I'm scanning the area to make sure the traffic can stop. When it can, I put my door switch in the middle, activating my big reds, my crossing gate, and my stop arm. I'm scanning again to make sure traffic has stopped in both directions. When it has, I'm going to go ahead and signal my kids to cross. When they get to the front corner of the bus, I'm going to go ahead and put the door switch all the way up. As they're coming on, I'm going to greet them. I'm going to tell them to watch their step. And as they get past this line right here, I'm going to go ahead and put the door switch back in the middle. As they are getting seated, I'm continuing to scan. I'm looking for any students that may be late arriving. Once I see that there are no students and they have seated, I am now going to go ahead and turn my big reds off, door switch all the way down, put it in drive, take the parking brake off. I'm going to scan one more time to make sure it's safe to proceed and go on. The unloading steps are very similar. In the approach category, we're going to do a visual scan of the area as we're approaching. We're going to tap our brakes 4 to 5 times and do another visual scan. We then will activate our warning lights, checking to make sure traffic notices we're slowing down. In the stop category, we are going to stop right at the stop when unloading. We will set the parking brake, put the vehicle in neutral, do another visual scan to make sure traffic can stop in both directions. We then will activate our stop arm, loading lights, and crossing gate. In the exit category, we will do a visual scan, making sure traffic has stopped in both directions before we open the service door. We'll let the kids know to use the handrail. We'll then count the students to give a parting phrase and tell them to wait for our signal to cross. We then will do another visual scan to make sure traffic has stopped in both directions and is still all clear, and then we'll tell the kids to go ahead, wave them across. Once they are all accounted for and in the safe zone, we then go to the door category. In the door category, we close the service door, we deactivate our loading lights and stop arm, safety arm, and we do another visual check to make sure the students are still all in the safe zone. We then place the vehicle in the proper gear, release the parking brake, and do one more visual scan to make sure it's safe to proceed. We will now have an example of that. Okay, I'm going to be doing a drop off on the driver's side. I'm going to have 3 students getting off. When I get 200 feet away, I'm going to tap my brakes 4 or 5 times. I'm going to turn on my big yellows. I'm scanning my mirrors to observe traffic. I'm scanning the area where I'm dropping the kids off. As I come up to the drop-off, because it is a drop-off, I can stop right at the drop-off. When I come to that stop, I'm going to go ahead and set my parking brake, put it in neutral. I'm going to scan my mirrors to make sure traffic can stop. If it can stop, I'm going to set my door switch in the middle, activating my big reds, my stop arm, and my safety arm. I'm now scanning my mirrors to make sure traffic has stopped in both directions, at which time I'm going to open my door. The kids have come forward. I'm going to instruct them to use the handrail, watch their step, and wait for my instruction to cross. Once the 3 students get off, I'm going to go ahead and put the door switch back in the middle. I'm going to have my hand out here waiting for them to follow my signal. When I scan the mirrors and make sure it is safe, I'm going to go ahead and give the instruction for them to cross. Once they get across the road and 10 feet beyond the roadway, I'm going to go ahead and turn my door switch off. I have counted to make sure my 3 students have gotten over there. All 3 are in a safe zone. I'm going to go ahead and put my bus back in drive, take the parking brake off, and scan the mirrors one more time to make sure that it's safe. Even though we're following the 20 steps, we don't ever need to get complacent and think that because I've gone through the 20 steps, I've done enough. We don't ever want to get where we're just going through the motions of letting kids off or picking kids up. We need to make sure that we have a complete laser focus on what we're doing and that we don't allow any distractions to keep our minds or our thoughts or our vision off of what we're doing at that moment. We're now going to watch a video that, to say is disturbing, is an understatement. We're going to watch a lady who got distracted from what she was doing of letting a student off the bus by the rowdiness of her bus and lost her focus on that child getting off the bus. I have to warn you, if this video doesn't make you turn your head or squirm a little bit, I believe there's something wrong. There's a part of me that hates to even show this video, but I think it's something that we need to really realize what is at stake every time we let a kid on our bus or let a kid off our bus.
What are you doing, Devin? Sit down, Devin. Is there someone to sit up here? What's going on right here? Who's sitting here? Who's sitting right here? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
We're now going to talk about some stop arm violations, a subject that usually calls us to get pretty upset about what drivers are doing. There are times where it is a clear-cut violation. We had one example with our cameras where we saw a person 9 seconds later ran a stop arm. Can lead to frustration because even though we have stop arm cameras, it's not always able to get a clear picture of the driver or license plate of the vehicle. But we have to realize that sometimes we as drivers do things that also contribute. In the example you see on the screen here, this driver is stopped at an intersection. Clearly, the law says that stops should not be within 30 feet of an intersection. A car coming around from the road to the left, making a right turn, may not even realize that that bus is stopped. So there are times we need to make sure we are doing the right thing so that we don't cause stop arm violations to the people traveling the roads with us. Here you have an example of a bus coming up to a stop with its big yellows on, and you have a car approaching it approximately the same distance away. They both have arrived at the stop at the same time. But as you see, the big yellows are still on the bus, and the car is approaching where the stop is. If you turn your big reds on now, this is really not a stop arm violation because they never had a realistic chance to stop. The best that you could hope for in this situation would be that the car would continue on through, even though you might perceive it as a stop arm violation. Because if they decide to start slamming on their brakes to stop, there could be several factors such as faulty brakes on their vehicle, wet pavement. It cause a skid that will result in a crash and injuries. So let's talk about the right thing to do. When two vehicles arrive at the same time, you want to go ahead and maintain your big yellows on your bus. Go ahead and let them pass safely before activating your big reds. This should have a much safer result with less frustration for us and for the other drivers we encounter. Now there's another type of violation that can happen when drivers are going down the road or pulling into a school with their big reds on. One of the things that should never happen is a bus traveling with its big reds on. Here you see a bus pulling up to a school, and he turned on his red override button instead of his yellow warning lights. That should never happen. Even though you're on school property and you're going to be dropping kids off, you still need to follow the regular procedure of big yellows on until you come to a stop and then turn your big reds on. Same thing at any stop that you do. There's no time that you should be using your red override button to do a stop. Always go through the yellow progression and then to the big reds once you've come to a complete stop. We always need to keep in mind that our most important responsibility whenever we are picking up students or dropping them off is their safety. And never lose focus on what we are doing. Never allow a distraction to keep us from keeping this kid safe. They depend on us, and it is the most important part of our job. Thank you for your time.